Hello everyone. In this lesson, we'll create a coin, write a script for the character to collect it, and learn how to trigger events when objects touch. We'll also track the total number of coins collected. This is what we're going to get in the end. The character collects the coin by intersecting with it. In this video, we'll deal with colliders of two objects and the method that registers it when they intersect. Under the video, I attached a file with a coin. Let's drag it into the project. Let's tidy up a bit. I created the materials folder, so let's drag all the materials from here to it. In the project, we'll have various models, including a character and a coin. Let's create the models folder for them. These are folders that each project has. We always have models, textures, and scripts. This way, it will be convenient and neat. I'm dragging the coin here. Let's move our player here too. It's also a model. Now let's create a new object in the hierarchy. Create empty. I'll call it coin. Let's set an icon for it. To make it easier to search for and select empty objects in the scene, they need to have an icon. A yellow one like this, for example. Let's move the model of our coin inside the coin object. Like this. I nest one object into another because the model may change. You may decide that instead of coins, you want to collect crystals that will look different. In this case, you'll just need to replace the model, while the logic remains at the top level of the hierarchy. I also want to turn it like this. Let's make it smaller too. Something like this. Let's add the shiny material to it. Our player already looks a bit like a coin, so we can copy the player's material, Ctrl-D, and rename it coin. Let's drag this material to the coin now. You may play with the parameters so that they don't look identical. Now let's create a new script for the coin. First of all, the script will rotate the coin to make it look more interesting. In the same script, we'll write how coins are collected. I dragged the script here, to the top level of the hierarchy. Let's try again. Alright, everything works now. Go to the coin script. First of all, let's make the coin rotate. In the update, write transform. Let's use a new method that is more convenient. We have already rotated our character, so you can probably guess we can rotate the coin in the same way. But there's an easier way, the transform rotate method. Indicate here how much you need to turn this coin. In this case, I want to rotate this object along the y-axis. Every frame, we want to rotate it a certain amount of degrees. We can write 10 there, for example. Each frame, the coin will rotate 10 degrees, but if you do this, the rotation speed will depend on the frame rate. On a powerful computer, it will rotate super fast, but on a phone, the rotation will be much slower. So we need to multiply this number by time.delta time. This is the time of one frame. Here we indicate how many degrees it will rotate per second. For example, 180. Half turn per second, or 360, then it'll make exactly 1 turn per second. Just to make it sink in, remember we can always bring quantities like these to the inspector. It's easier to configure them there because you don't have to go to the script each time. I'll create a float type field here and call it rotation speed. Instead of 360, we'll enter. Well, let's see how it rotates. Be sure to set this number, 360, in the inspector. If the number is 0, the coin won't rotate. Okay, everything works fine. Note that it rotates around its local z-axis. The y-axis, I mean this green axis. If I turn it like this, it rotates like this. That's how the transform rotate method works. It rotates an object around its local axis. In this case, it suits us. Now let's start collecting coins. So what's the idea here? We need unity physics because we need to register the intersection of two objects. The player must intersect with the coin. By doing this, it collects the coin. This means we need to add a new component to the coin. I'll add it here. It's called the collider. There are various colliders to set up, but I think a sphere collider is what we need here. Sphere collider. You can adjust its radius. You can make it a little bigger if you want to help our player. This way, even if our character passes the coin instead of bumping into it, it'll still collect it and be happy. You also need to check the is trigger box for the collider. Trigger means that this collider shouldn't behave like an object that crashes into something or falls somewhere. It simply represents an area other colliders interact with. We don't need the player to lose its speed when it crashes into it. We just need to register the intersection of the two objects. Now we need to write a method in the script that will be called when something intersects with this trigger. We go back to the coin script and add a new method on trigger enter. It's a special method that is built into Unity, which means you don't have to write it from scratch. You start typing and find it here, not the 2D one. On trigger enter, choose it. The template of this method appears here. It will be called when something gets into the object's trigger area. Here we write what exactly happens. Let's destroy the coin first. To do this, we have the destroy method. In parentheses, write what exactly we want to destroy. Game object, the object the script is linked to. Let's save it and see what we've got. Now, if the coin intersects with something, it should be destroyed. But there are details that need to be clarified. Let me create a cube. First, let's see how the coin will interact with this cube. Because it doesn't matter to us what exactly it intersects with. Click play. It won't work like this. If we just push the cube here, the coin won't be destroyed. The object that intersects with the trigger must have a rigid body component. I add the rigid body component to the cube, it falls on the coin, and now the coin is destroyed. Keep in mind that according to Unity physics, triggers work only when they intersect with a rigid body object. This is quite inconvenient for us because the player doesn't have to be physical, fall somewhere, or anything like that. It just runs using a script. To avoid this problem, we can go to the rigid body component and check the is kinematic box. By doing this, you disable rigid body. The component remains here and affects triggers, but it doesn't fall anymore. See, the box doesn't fall because it is kinematic. But it will still interact with the coin. That's it. Great, it destroyed the coin. Okay, I created the box as an example. Let's delete it. We need to add a collider like this to the player. Here's how we'll do it. Inside the player, create a new capsule, 3D project, capsule. It's inside the player object. Then let's place it like this so that its base touches the ground. And let's do one more thing that we'll need later. Here, I'll create an empty game object, call it Collider Center, and link our capsule to it. According to our gameplay, the player's height will change. It will grow, get 3 times taller, and when it changes its height, it will be able to collect coins that are high above. So its collider will have to touch those coins too. And we should make the collider grow together with the player. Let's take care of our future now. Here's how we'll do it. I'll make this capsule smaller, so that its height is 0.5. Well, the width should also be a little smaller to match the width of our character. Approximately 0.7. 0.7. I like to set even numbers along these axes. Now just drag it down a little bit like this. I'm dragging it while holding the control button. This way, it gets fixed and moves exactly 1/4 meter. What did we just do here? The collider center here is now exactly 1 meter high. When we want to make it exactly 2 meters high, we'll just write 2 in the Y field here. Now it's exactly 2 meters. This will be very important for us later when we change the character's height and write this value in the script. We'll just regulate the Y field. Actually, now our character is quite tall. Let's make it 0.84 centimeters. Of course, you can hide this mesh, deselect the box, or even delete these 2 components. We're only interested in the collider here. We mentioned that for the coin trigger to work, the object must have a rigid body component. So add the rigid body component to the player, and check the is kinematic box. This won't affect how the character moves, it'll just be able to collect coins. There's a nuance. Rigid body belongs to this object here, and the collider is nested inside. This will work fine in Unity. This collider belongs to this rigid body. Colliders can be linked directly to the object or to something inside it. Everything will work. This is the typical hierarchy that we build in Unity. That's it. Let's check how the player will collect the coin. We may even create several coins for it. I'll just copy them using Ctrl-D. Now let's run it. Okay, it runs, touches the coins, and they disappear. Now let's make sure it's somehow counted. How many coins it collected, because now they are simply destroyed and disappear without a trace. To do this, we need another script. Let's call it Coin Manager. Manager of coins. I'll create a new empty object. I'll also call it Coin Manager and add a script to it. Let's wait until it compiles. This is a service script. It must be present in the scene, like any other script, but it doesn't matter where it's located. I usually place the scripts at the coordinates 0:0:0. It's weird if they are somewhere else. What matters for us is that the script is in the scene and we can use it. Now, let's write in the script that it should track the number of coins. Let's create a field in it that is responsible for this. You can also display it in the inspector. Private int underscore, let's give it a telltale name. Number of coins in level. This is how many coins the character has collected in this level. Later we'll need to distinguish between the coins the character already had and those it collected in this particular level. So, it's better to use an accurate name. We also need to create a method here. We don't need start and update here. We'll create our own method. I'll call it public void add1. We haven't created our own methods yet. A method is a piece of code that is executed when we call it. In the beginning, we should enter the access modifier for the method, public. As I want to call this method from the coin script, it must be public. Next goes void. This is the type of return value. We'll see how it works using examples later. Void means that it doesn't return anything. It's just executed once. It's just a block of code that will be executed once, and that's all we need it to do. So what exactly do we need? We need the number of coins, this parameter, to increase by 1. So we type number of coins in level plus equals 1. You can also write this plus equals 1 as plus plus. Right, as you like. Plus equals 1 is also fine. This method should be called when the coin is collected. So we go back to the coin script. In addition to being destroyed, it should also call this method. One more thing. We have these coins here in the scene. There are several of them. And they must somehow find this script in the scene and call the method from it. One way we can do this is using the findObjectiveType method. It searches the scene for a component of a certain type which we indicate here, in these triangular brackets, Coin Manager. This is the syntax it uses, just memorize it. Triangular brackets in the beginning, then the name of the component, parentheses, dot, the method we want to call. Add1. That's it. Save it. How objects should refer to other objects is a big debatable question. However, in this case, this method works perfectly fine. There's a coin. The player runs into it. The coin finds the coin manager in the scene and calls the add1 method from the script. Then it's destroyed, and that's it. Let's see how it works. There's another thing that might lead you to make frequent mistakes. There's also the findObjectSubType method. It searches the scene for an array of all objects with this component. This is not what we need. This will lead to errors, so keep it in mind. You may choose the wrong method by accident. That's it. We have the coin manager in the scene. It has the number of coins. There are 0 coins now, so let's see. When the character intersects with coins, this number increases. Amazing. Now we know how many coins it collected. Later we'll be able to display it in the interface. A number of coins will be written here. Let's sum it all up. In this lesson, we use the onTriggerEnter method, which is called when the collider that belongs to some rigid body crosses the trigger boundary. We also learned the findObjectiveType method. It can be used to find a single component in the scene.